Hi there, YouTube. Been snowed in for 3 days. Here in Greensboro, we got 14 inches of snow. Yeah. It's North Carolina, so we don't really know how to act when this happens. I just watched Julian Watson's latest video. I'm going to put a link to it in the description, in which he asks a question: how do you view money now that you're out? And I thought that this was a really interesting discussion. And my thoughts on it were much wider than would fit in a comment section. So I decided to make my own video about it. So Julian makes a lot of really good points about the witnesses and their view of money. Because we were always told about how bad it was to be materialistic, to the point that any interest in bettering yourself, or especially higher education, was viewed as materialistic, because why would anyone want to go to college other than to get a better job and make more money? Well, this is actually a really short-sighted view of a university. My entire professional career has been at public universities in the United States, and the idea that the purpose of a university education is to get paid more is really way off base. The purpose of the university experience is to help you to become a well-rounded, independent adult who can think, learn, and operate as a productive member of society. Now, if you graduate successfully, then the odds are you will get a better paying job, but that is not the sole purpose of going to university. University education is not the same as trade school, and it is not and should not be aimed at simply getting paid more. If that's all you're doing it for, you're doing it wrong. Anyway, I digress. We were told all the time that the love of money is the root of all evil. And there were periodic local needs talks about materialism in every single congregation I ever attended. But you have to understand that there's a certain duality, a certain two-facedness about the witnesses and their view of money. There were always well-to-do families in the congregation, and they were simultaneously favored and gossiped about in the same congregation by the same people. The same was true if you weren't well off. Now, it's a funny story. I can remember being in the restroom at our Kingdom Hall with my mother when I was a little kid. So this was before my parents split up, so I must have been around 5 or so. We were inside the stall, my mother and I, and 2 sisters came in and they were talking. And one of them had been at our house earlier that week for dinner, and we had people over all the time. And my dad was the presiding overseer, which these days would be called the COBE, coordinator of the body of elders or something. The other sister asked if they'd had fun, because I think they were out of town or something and they didn't come. But the first sister kind of sniffed and had this real smug voice, and she said, well, they don't have much. Now, my father was a workaholic. He had his own small business, and he worked third shift at a bus factory back then too. In addition to being the presiding overseer and doing all the social stuff for the congregation and getting at least 10 hours in the field ministry every month, we had a small, I think it was 2-bedroom brick house and a big backyard. And yeah, it was on a dirt road, but it was fine. I mean, we weren't well off, but we weren't poor either. And I think my parents spent most of their disposable income feeding the congregation at those parties, honestly. Anyway, my mom chose that moment to sweep majestically out of the bathroom stall. And she did not say a word. But the next local needs talk was all about materialism and gossip. Yes, my mother was an elderette at one time. We were taught that we should be willing to quit our jobs for Jehovah too. Now, I've mentioned before the people in the congregation who were told that it was not appropriate for them to work at a factory that made condoms, even though that kind of full-time job with benefits was really hard to come by in our area. And I can remember when I was a teenager, I worked at an electronics store, and we were having a quick build in our town, our Kingdom Hall. We were getting a new Kingdom Hall, and I asked for some time off, but my boss said no. Well, I had a car payment to make and insurance to pay. So it's not like I felt like I could just, quit. So I went to work instead of going to work for free at the Quick Build. And I was told by the brothers that my going to work as scheduled was materialistic, and I got counseled pretty heavily about it. Yeah, like a 17-year-old girl is going to make a world of difference at a construction site. So I can also remember talks at the Kingdom Hall about how saving for retirement showed weak faith, because our faith should be that Armageddon was coming. It's just around the corner, and it would be here before we would ever need a 401k. And having one actually showed a lack of faith in Jehovah. But remember that duality I mentioned before? So you would think that if they were counseling people not to save for their old age, then they should offer some kind of help to the elderly in the congregation who've taken their advice, shouldn't they? Well, think again. Other than a few well-meaning people who tried to help out of their own pockets, usually my dad, there was absolutely no assistance from the congregation or from the society for the poor people who took this idiotic advice. And I saw this very brutally played out with my mother and my grandparents. I mean, they saved absolutely nothing. So my grandmother now lives with my aunt in another state. My grandfather has passed away, and my mother is now dependent on the government and yours truly. So as a Jehovah's Witness, you are given the message that you're supposed to give till it hurts, of your money, your time, and your mental energy. Earning a living is secondary to the preaching work, right? And any attempt to make your financial situation better or save for your old age is viewed as weakness. Also, there's not a whole lot of time in the life of a witness to devote to your career. So when you put all of this together, it really explains in part why Jehovah's Witnesses are so susceptible to things like multi-level marketing schemes and get-rich-quick schemes. They want more money. Most of them need more money, but they don't know how to get it. And they don't have time to invest in learning how to get it. Plus, they're actively discouraged from it. And yet, the people in the congregation who have more money than most are viewed sometimes with envy and sometimes with disdain. So coming out of that mindset is actually pretty hard. And a lot of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses haven't really abandoned these views. And this is really large part of the problem in my family right now, I think. Now, as you're no doubt aware, when you're disfellowshipped or you leave the Jehovah's Witnesses, there is this expectation, this built-in crash and burn, and many ex-Jehovah's Witnesses do, especially when they leave fairly young. It's like we've been programmed to self-destruct. And I think that our attitudes toward money that we're taught definitely play into that. So, yeah, I went a little wild when I left, but I didn't self-destruct. I didn't crash and burn. I learned. And I think in large part, I got really lucky because the thing I wanted to do was go to college. And the more people told me I couldn't go to college, the more determined I was to show them. To the point, I worked my ass off. I worked 70-hour weeks and took classes. It took me a while, but I did it. Yeah, I had some hard times. I mean, at one point I didn't have a place to sleep and had to depend on a friend to help me out. And at other points I couldn't afford groceries, so I would actually pick up shifts at the restaurant where I worked so I could get a free meal. Along the way, I discovered something. I actually have a natural talent with money. I learned how to manage it and make it work for me. So I did actually one of the worst things you can ever do in the eyes of a witness after leaving. I succeeded. Now, this has caused some serious consternation for my family, as you might imagine. For those still entrenched in the watchtower, it sort of takes the bite out of their snide comments, because I don't need their help. And for those family members no longer in the religion, my financial success seems to be used as an excuse for me to do all the hard, nasty work in the family, like taking care of my mother and her property and all the bills, and for other people to get a pass. If I had $1 for every time somebody said to me, "Oh, you're the only one who can handle this," I mean, it's practically a mantra in our family these days. So yeah, I can handle the financial side of it. I shouldn't have to, but that doesn't mean I don't need any help, guys. And it also doesn't mean I can't say no. See, a lot of times I'm expected to bankroll things that aren't in my best interest, and people get really pissed at me for saying no, or for asking them to honor the agreements that they've made and pay me back for things they've borrowed or broken, or applying the brakes to the gravy train. I mean, I'm coming to the realization that certain people don't actually love me. They love my paycheck, and they love the fact that they don't have to get their hands dirty. I'm still not a worthy person to them because of the way we were raised, because the witnesses taught them that disfellowship people suck, and I'm the only one who's disfellowship because I'm the only idiot that got baptized. That's too bad. See, it sucks to have the people you love, people who are supposed to support you, resent you for making it in life, while simultaneously expecting you to pay their bills. Some of them. I mean, I'll be the first to admit that I'm not perfect. You might have noticed I'm kind of a bitch. But I think we all make bad choices in life sometimes. I know I've made some in the past, just like everybody else on the planet. But I do know what I'm good at. And making money is one of those things. Not sorry. See, one of my new boundaries is that I will no longer apologize for being successful or accept the idea that I should somehow be ashamed of it. So, you know how I love to give unsolicited advice on YouTube? For those of you who are just starting out on this ex-Jehovah's Witness journey, here's a couple pieces of unsolicited financial advice. Number 1, if you find yourself struggling financially, you need to know that there are programs out there that can help you. Now, I only know about the US because that's where I live. But go look for Consumer Credit Counseling Services, CCCS. Now, there are a lot of fly-by-night services that use similar names, so make sure you got the real deal. But they can help you get out of debt. They can help you get back on your feet. They can help you get groceries. They can help you get rent money. And they can connect you with other programs and educational opportunities. They do classes for first-time homebuyers, budgeting classes on how to lower your bills, tons of stuff. Go look it up. Trust me, you'll be glad you did. Number 2, learn how to budget. It sounds like a drag, but it's not. It actually teaches you to think about where your money goes and why it's going there. It's really as simple as comparing how much money you have coming in and how much you have going out, but it's surprising how many people have such a hard time doing this. Is really worth learning, because budgeting is how you strategize to be able to afford the life you want. So you have to think about the life you want and then figure out how to get from where you are now to that place you want to be at. Number 3, be dependable. Go to work. Show up. Do the best job you can. Make yourself indispensable, because that's how you move up. And when it's time to move up, don't be shy about asking for a raise if you deserve it. Go in there with all your ducks in a row. Take examples of how you've saved the company money, examples about how you go above and beyond, research on what the going rate is for your position, whatever you have that's relevant. The worst thing they can say is no, but they definitely aren't going to say yes if you never ask. So, number 4. Your credit score. Check it. It matters. So I mentioned CCCS earlier. They can teach you about this too, but the primary driver of a good credit score is really easy. Pay your bills on time. On time. That's all it takes. Just pay them on time. Be dependable and pay on time, even if you're just paying the bare minimum. It will make a difference for you. It might take 6 months to a year, but it will make a huge difference. Number 5, save for retirement. You are going to get old someday unless you get hit by a bus or something tomorrow. If there's one thing I've learned from taking care of my mother these past few years, it is that I absolutely must have a solid retirement plan. If there's anything left when I die, I'll leave it to my kids, but I'm going to make sure that while I'm alive, I have enough money to pay for whatever care and assistance I need, and it will be my choice. Nobody is going to be obligated, shamed, or browbeaten into taking care of me. When the time comes, I will check myself into my nursing home of choice and let my boys know where to bring my adorable grandchildren to visit. And I'm going to be the sweetest, kookiest old bat in the place. Number 6, make your hard choices. Because financial success means you have made some hard choices. What this means for me is don't spend your money on stupid shit. Now, if I'm in a financial tight spot, you will not catch me spending a single dime on alcohol or drugs. I won't be getting my nails done. I won't be going out for a night on the town until I'm out of the red. What I'm saying is that your priorities have to be clear, at least to yourself. If your priority is to get drunk and high and forget about it, then go for it. But if you really want to be financially successful, and I mean legit, that stuff's just going to set you back and it's going to get in your way. You have to find the balance that's right for your life, and nobody can tell you that but you. But that balance never means skipping the bills, like the rent or the mortgage payment, because you don't have the money when you can still afford to smoke it up and get baked. Sorry. Making hard choices can also go the other way. Because a while back, I walked away from a 6-figure salary because I was miserable. Money is important, but it's not everything. And once you learn how it all works, you'll know that if you've done it once, you can do it again. So you're not going to starve to death. Now, I don't make as much money now as I did then, but I'm not hurting and I'm a hell of a lot happier. We're adulting hard over here, aren't we? We have to flush that ridiculous Jehovah's Witness mindset about money. We have to flush it. It's got to go. It's okay to be interested in making money. It's okay to be financially successful. It's also okay to choose other things besides money. So, for example, maybe you have the skills and you could make more money than you currently do as an IT person. But the idea of sitting in front of a computer all day makes you want to jump off a bridge. Well, maybe a lower paying job will actually pay more for you in terms of happiness. See, these are the hard choices we have to learn to make for ourselves. Just know that your financial success does not obligate you to take care of other people's problems or give away your hard-earned money unless you actively choose to do so. It doesn't say anything about you as a person except that you've learned something. It doesn't make you materialistic or selfish. It makes you smart and successful. Don't apologize for it. I won't.